Welcome everybody to Event Marketing Redefined. We are live at Exhibitor Live towards the tail end of day 2. I'm sitting here with Ryan Schefke, CEO, founder of Captello. Captello is a universal lead capture and engagement solution. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me here. Awesome little area.
Thanks, man.
And appreciate you hosting here.
You got it. Good to meet you, and I think interesting to have you on now after I've had 2 days of talking to exhibitors, because your, we'll say, product is primarily sold to exhibitors, right? Mm-hmm. For lead
Correct.
capture and ROI sort of support at trade shows. Tell me a little bit about sort of like the key value prop and problems that your product's solving.
Sure. So main issues, a lot of exhibitors, they struggle with lead capture, right? Yeah, they don't put that first. They don't make it a priority. So really part of what I think an exhibitor needs to do is they need to have a strategy around lead capture to begin with as the very first thing. So, and also I think exhibitors, they're very ignorant in terms of lead capture, and that's not a bad thing, but 9 times out of 10, every exhibitor comes to the show and they're putting lead capture last, but they're just buying whatever the show provides. And to me, it's kind of there's a broken business model, right? Typically the show is charging you per user. For us, not to try to advocate Captello too much, but we charge per event, and we want every person on the show floor to have lead capture. We're not, you have to think, you've got to enable an exhibitor to be successful, right?
Otherwise, why are they there, right? I mean,
yeah, you make huge investments, right? 6-figure investments on your exhibit experience, and that's all that matters when you walk away. Granted, some companies I talk to, they're all about, okay, I want to deliver my brand message, but really it's also about making sure you get your return. You got to generate revenue. So the important thing is maximize how you capture leads, make sure everybody is capturing leads, make sure you're doing it in different ways and pulling people into your booth as best you can.
I think interesting, you said a strategy for lead capture. I've not had anybody put the word strategy in there with that, so I really like that. Interesting, we're doing a little engagement in our booth, and because we have a hotel theme, it's like, what's the key to your future trade show success?
Very tricky, Matt. I like it.
Give them a hotel key, yep.
Yeah,
and oddly enough, one of the options in boxes is ROI and measurement, and it has been super popular.
Yeah.
Tie that into my conversations for 2 days with event marketers, CTSM folks here in the program. A lot of people talking about ROI, measurement. How do I tell the story on the back end of an event, right? How do I tell the story of success, not success, and making adjustments? Your guys, I mean, that's essentially is a tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, and Matt, I'll just give you a data point. 35% of exhibitors actually measure how many leads convert to deals. But that's only a third of exhibitors do that. What that means is 2/3 of exhibitors don't actually figure out which leads convert into business. But they might say, okay, yeah, this lead converted into a deal, but they don't close the loop, right? When we talk about ROI, there's soft ROI, Matt, and then there's hard ROI. When I say hard ROI, I mean the financials. Yeah. So if I'm an event coordinator or a trade show marketer, I best be sure that I know when I come back from an event, right? Or I could look at over time, how much money did I make? I'm talking about revenue. Did I generate $150,000? Was my ROI, 400%? What was my cost per lead? You've got to know that. I mean, most trade show marketers, event coordinators, they're reporting up to a CEO, a chief revenue officer, chief marketing officer.
CMO, VP.
What do they care about, man? What's the one thing they care about?
Man.
The numbers, revenue, right? So you got to make sure you know the revenue. And the problem, why everybody that exhibits, they can't actually measure ROI is because, do you think every one of your prospects that walk into your booth, are they going to be a client that day? No. It takes time, right?
You got a sales cycle as well that follows if they're interested.
You have a sales cycle. You need to build a relationship. business happens over time. So when that deal closes, right, it's very important that you take your lead, you put it in your CRM. You know when in your CRM, like Salesforce, it moves to a closed deal, that you could tie that back to the fact that you captured your lead and measure that true return on investment.
Interesting you said that. I just had a conversation with a woman named Danielle, and we were talking about her trade show that's coming up. She was asking me about this podcast, and they're wanting to run a podcast in their booth. She's asking me all about it.
Nice.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, cool.
But she was talking about ROI and measurement. She was saying, like, I don't feel like my leadership really values face-to-face events. We're just kind of doing them and going through the motions.
I hear that so much, yeah. Executives don't believe in trade shows.
She's saying, how can I get them on board? How can I get them on a train? I said, first of all, I'd ask them, what would you want to see? What number could I bring you? What thing would interest you to be like, oh, okay? Because I think that a lot of event marketers are stuck in a spot where doing the norm will suffice.
Yeah.
Right? Versus high-level event marketers, they are measuring, right? They are tracking. They are finding ways to tie back to sales. And that delivers results that executives want to see.
And I'm telling you, honestly, if on this podcast and your content, if you have event coordinators listening to this podcast, like one way to keep your job, because there's a lot of turnover in this industry. And again, you could get a badass guy coming in or gal coming in, firing people. I don't believe in live events, but if you are that person that wants to keep your job, measure return on investment, make sure and part of your job should be, hey, I go to X number of trade shows a year and these are the bad ones. But don't just say that subjectively. You need to have objective results, right? Again, the hard ROI, that's important.
I think that's a great point you just made. We actually talk about it on the show regularly, which is like, hey, if you're not measuring or you're not tying back what you're doing to business objectives and coming up with an outcome, right? How do you know if you're doing 10 trade shows a year, are they all right for you?
Exactly.
I mean, what if one returns at a crazy rate and then you have two of them that don't return at all and they're a waste and you don't need to be there? Why wouldn't you want to know that and then allocate that budget maybe into the show that's kind of middle of the ground, but you can do a better activation. Like it's all strategy, but if you don't know, you don't know.
I'm going to add to the data collection piece. So we have something else that we're introducing, which is ethical facial analysis. So putting cameras inside your booth around your activations and being able to measure things like impressions, right? Think about billboards when you're driving down the highway. Well, all those companies that do those ads, they pay based on impressions, how many cars are driving by. You need to know your impressions, right? Then you need to know your demographics, gender, age, and sentiment and dwell time, measuring those things. So we're actually doing that in our booth with a camera and tying that into how many leads did I capture, and then the hard ROI that I just spoke about. All of that, we in marketing, right? I have a little history in marketing, and marketers like to do a campaign and have a funnel, and you see at the top of the funnel's wide and it goes very narrow. We don't really do that, I think, in trade shows, but there's an opportunity to do that. And it begins with your foot traffic, your impressions, your dwell time or your stop rate, and then your conversions thereafter.
We've had a lot of conversation this week about like attribution, right? Which is what these event marketers are struggling with. Where does events plug in? Because it is top funnel, middle funnel, bottom of the funnel. There is current customers that they're dealing with at events that they're either, I don't want to say upselling, but building a better relationship and rapport with based on their experience. So I think it's interesting how what you guys are providing has a tie back. It's giving them a tool to now go do this. Does it tie to the CRM? Does it what specifically, how do they execute?
Yeah, so we have over 5,000 integrations with Captello's Universal Lead Capture. We integrate with every major CRM like Salesforce.com, Microsoft Dynamics. We have clients that also want to put their leads in their marketing automation platform like Eloqua, Pardot, HubSpot. We have native direct integrations with all of those.
That's awesome.
And we have business logic where you could route leads one way or the other based on criteria. You also talked about attribution and how it's hard to do that. When you are using our universal lead capture on your phone, we have a concept called stations where when you pick up your device, if your teammates, over on this particular activation or area, you can set your lead capture to be in that station. So hey, when somebody comes in, the initial station that they came into and all of the other touches, right? in marketing, it's about your touch points, right? You know, we often talk about like multi-touch, you know, like Coca-Cola is a good example.
Oh.
On average, I don't know if this is true, but
bet it's crazy.
But people see the Coca-Cola logo on average 7 times a day is what I heard.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. So it's about eyeballs, impressions, but you need to know, you know, after the event's over, what are the touches, right, that an attendee had.
That's an interesting stat on Coca-Cola.
You gotta fact check me on that, but I heard that.
That's crazy. No, that's but
they're brainwashing us, you know.
A lot of truth to it. I love what you said about being able to sort of stationize this. I've had a few conversations where people are really struggling is intangible things they want to measure, not just ROI, brand awareness, right? Certain things that like relationship building, the networking, some things that are really not measurable, but they want to be able to try to put something to it because there's value there. And it's not always just money in, money out. Now, money in, money out is king, right? It's always going to be there. But some of the intangibles that they're trying to measure, like I had a conversation, we were talking about how to measure brand awareness. And I was saying a real simple method would be on an exit of someone leaving a booth, you run them through a quick survey. And I think it's all about the question that you're asking. How pointed of a question? What was your first contact? When did you first hear about us? When did you first really know us? When did we become a viable option, candidate? When did you start to consider us? So you can start to learn where that brand awareness happens. Yeah. So interesting, so much of this is being discussed right now, and I think it's a problem out there that needs to be solved. It sounds like you guys are solving it.
Yeah, you're on top of it. I like it. Yeah. Event marketing redefined.
I'm trying.
That's where it's at, baby.
Trying to be, man. You'll appreciate this. I was at a trade show this years back, and I had a friend doing work for the booth, big booth. They had a bunch of golf simulators, right?
Yeah.
They were busy.
I just went to Con Expo, and there was a golf simulator thing.
They had like 15 simulators. Well, they sell them to build out everything. Sure. And I started talking to the guy who produced the booth, the guy at the company who's the trade show manager, event marketer, or whatever. And I was like, man, I said, you guys look busy. This is awesome. And he's like, yeah, but, you know, he said something about being too busy. He's like, you know, we just can't track all these leads. Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? I said, this sounds like a terrible problem now. Yeah. Long story short, he said to me, he goes, look, man, all the salespeople are packed, jammed, super busy, and we can't get enough information on people quick enough or get it down because they're working. I just was on the fly. I said, dude, go buy an iPad right now, right? Pull up a Google Doc, take one of your interns or somebody, give it to them, and have them just running around the booth going salesperson to salesperson. Who was that? What was that call? Like A, B, C, D. What was it? Where were they at? What's the notes? Because they didn't have Captello.
So I'll give you an example, right? If you have like your golf simulator, you have a line of people wanting to play, stuff like that. You could have, you know, a little kiosk, and this is why we say universal lead capture. So you could set up a kiosk, a little tablet,
that's cool.
And then people could. It could be a screensaver when nobody's, you know, in line or something like that. So you're doing your advertising. But people that are queued up, you could tap a button, scan the badge. They could scan their own badge, right? It fills out their information automatically, and then you can collect the other things like how did you hear about us to build the brand awareness that you're talking about. But
way more organized.
There are steps you could take, you know, to collect that information ahead of time. Or a staff member could do it, you know, like you said, just use their mobile phone and go through the line and knock it out.
I think we've had this conversation a ton. That one was interesting. It blows my mind, some of the disorganization with it. Like you said, strategy for lead capture. That's an interesting statement.
I want to add something else, if I may. So we have a client, Thomson Reuters, big company, you probably know of them. They came to us several years back and they said, hey, we have this big event. It was at the Library of Congress in D.C. And they had this line of thousands of people. And they're like, oh, I want to capture all these leads, right? Yeah. So everybody brought their badge, and they took our software, and they said, hey, I need some sort of, you know, like a cattle call, like you're bringing in cattle, and, you know, you're checking them in, if you will. So they used our software, and we have it called rapid scan. So you can rapid scan badges. So in a situation like that, you could scan.
Just to get the information.
And get the info, but it's just takes milliseconds.
What's the level of like notes and detail that can go into the contacts that you're putting in that you meet? Because I'm a big believer in like personalization, follow-up.
You're touching on a subject that is like really near and dear to my heart because again, we'll go back to revenue, right? Generating revenue. Well, most of the time when you're exhibiting, right, you probably are not the person following up with the lead, right? Maybe your sales team, your BDR team, your biz dev team.
It's passed on.
It gets passed on. So I'm a huge advocate to make sure that your handoff, right, is done effectively. You've got to have quality information. So we know this, right? My background is sales, and I know that when you're exhibiting, right, you're talking to so many people, right? If I collect a couple hundred leads, I might, oh my gosh, that's a really hot lead, it's great.
Yeah.
But when I leave, if I'm in Vegas, wherever, okay, I go out, I have a couple drinks, I meet so many more people, I'm gonna forget, right? Attendees will also forget you. So you've got to make sure you capture all that information. We have cool features. We have an audio note feature.
Nice. Oh, I love that.
So what we'll do is, it's not like Siri or anything like that. You tap the button
and talk.
You record into it, and you can record all the personal info, all the details, anything they care about. People are hearing the inflection in your voice, but this is what we do. We turn that into an audio file, and we take a link to that, and that link can get mapped into your CRM. So when you open up Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, a week later when you thought you forgot everything, you click the button and you play it back, and Matt is telling me about this lead.
Just talked to Jennifer. She was talking about, that's awesome.
She has 2 kids. She lives over in Florida.
Yep,
this is what she really wants. She came to us because of this reason. So amazing in terms of follow-up. The other thing is, people let these hot leads walk away. They expect that they're going to get back with them and follow up, but you met them live. Take advantage of it. Book a meeting. Like in our lead capture app, we have the ability to schedule a meeting right there and then, kind of like a Calendly feature.
Yeah, I love that.
So you book it. It's on their calendar right there and then. They have to intentionally cancel the meeting or reschedule. It's booked. They're not going anywhere, right? So I think that's really important is, don't let that lead walk away, because half the battle is you got to do that follow-up and chase them, even though they said, hey, this is great, I'm interested, but that can take some time.
That's awesome. I love that. That voice note thing, I'm such a believer, even just being here this week with my sales team. I mean, we're having, we're putting notes in, we're having breakdowns, we're talking about little details, because hey, if we're going to follow up with somebody, we're going to follow up with somebody the right way. We're not going to follow up with somebody saying, hey, it was good to see you, I don't, you don't remember. I want that touch point right away. I want that personalization. I want to extend the conversation from when I had it in the booth to a week or 2 down the road, or whenever it is.
For sure. And it's about when you build relationships with people and you close deals, it's about, people do business with people they like. And if you remember those personal nuggets, right? And those nuances in your conversation, which you have to capture right there and then, that's crucial. The other important thing, Matt, is most of the time when you're exhibiting, you've got competition on the show floor.
Always.
So if you can do anything to get a leg up ahead of your competition, right, in terms of getting more quality information and responding faster, you need to do that, because your competition wants that business as well. So you got to put your best foot forward.
It's really good. Ryan, thanks for coming on, man. You have a really cool product. I think it's extremely valuable for the CTSM folks here, for the exhibitors, for our clients.
Sure.
And I think a lot of what I'm hearing, problems that people are trying to solve, you have a tool for them to help them solve it and really get them going in the right direction.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure being here. I didn't touch on this, but I want to say there's also a suite of digital activations that we provide, because a lot of times it's hard to bring people in. Not everybody has a great personality like you, Matt.
Oh, thank you.
So you need ways to pull them in and kind of, hey, come on, play to win, things like that, right? Digital activations, which leads to lead capture. So look, I'm passionate about the industry. I'm passionate about sales and marketing and lead capture. But I think everybody watching, just make lead capture a priority. Make that an emphasis. Put it first.
Some strategy for lead capture.
That's like the quote, man. That's like the quote I got. That's the title of this podcast.
I think it's great.
Strategy
for lead capture.
You got it.
Nice, man. Thanks for coming on.
You bet.
Appreciate it.